Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching another episode of Property Pros Podcast. I am Mark Goldwich.
Peter LaFramboy.
We're public insurance adjusters in Jacksonville, Florida. We're interested in all things property. Today, we've got another great guest for you. He is Marc Hassan. He's owner broker with Spectrum Realty Services. Marc, can you take a few minutes? Tell us about yourself, your company, what you're all about.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me on, guys. I am Marc Hassan with Spectrum Realty Services, LLC. I'm the owner and broker of Spectrum Realty Services. We've been around in Jacksonville since 2007. And even before that, I've been involved with real estate, property management, and all that good stuff. So as far as what we do a little bit of everything. We do cover the full spectrum of real estate services. So we do commercial real estate, residential real estate, property management, association management. And, I always think that a good owner and broker in real estate should be involved with real estate themselves. So we do have some partnerships where we do some development and things like that. So we have a pretty well-rounded knowledge of all things real estate. So that's it. Born and raised in Jacksonville, love it here and love real estate here.
Tell us a little bit more. How many on your team? How many properties under management? Things like that.
Sure, we have plus or minus 550 residential units under management, about 80,000 square feet of commercial space, and just over 400 association units made up of about 4 associations, and those are anything from residential associations, HOAs, townhomes, to residential condominiums and business condominiums. So again, the full gamut there as well. We have a team of about 10 in the property management sector. So we're at it full time. Obviously, it's a 24/7 business. So we have all our bases covered and have a good crew.
Well, that's cool, Mark. I didn't know that you guys did homeowner association work. Is that something you're looking to do more of, or just sort of maintain the business that you have?
No, it is probably something that we'll do more of. I am the licensed CAM, which is a community association manager, and so I pretty much handle the board meetings, things like that. So you can imagine during busy season, annual meetings and things like that, it can get pretty busy for me. I do have staff that helps with property inspections. I've got a good accounting staff as well that helps on that side of things. So, but I would need to bring another CAM in before I take that next step. And I'm kind of right at that level now where I do need to bring someone in if we're going to add any more association units to our portfolio. So it is something that's kind of on the horizon.
I didn't hear condo association. Is that by design?
Say that again now.
Condominium associations.
Yeah.
Do you not work with those?
Oh no, we do. We have business condominium associations, and we have, I believe, one residential association as well. About 22 units on the river that we manage.
So really interesting. It is the fall of 2021 for anybody that watches this video at some point in the future, and our housing in Jacksonville has been red hot. Do you want to give a little bit of some of the highs and lows that you've been through over the last year and a half since COVID took effect in like March-ish of 2020?
Sure. So it's an interesting question. Obviously, in our business, we don't just look at sales, but we look at property management, i.e., rentals as well. So we're seeing the impact on both sides, and they kind of go hand in hand. So what I mean by that is there was already kind of a deficit or an inventory deficit last year. So last year we have stats in for September. And so last year, I actually have a little cheat sheet here for me. But last year, in September, there was 2.3 months of housing supply. And we typically think of a balanced market when there's about 6 months of inventory. This year, we're down to a month and a half as of September. So less inventory, more demand, obviously. Some of that is obviously due to COVID and supply shortages, all those things we've been hearing about in the news. But another part of it, which is also what's driving the rental inventory shortage, is that there's a lot of, I'll call it Wall Street backed money that's coming in and buying properties to rent. There's also home builders who are building entire neighborhoods as rental products. So that's driving prices up. I listed 2 properties for some of our management clients Monday of this week. Between the 2 properties, I had about 30 offers. We went to a highest and best scenario, and both of those properties went for anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 above asking. 21-day close cash buyers. When they show their proof of funds, they've got a $50 million bank account, and they're strictly buying properties to rent. So it's difficult for a owner occupant, but it's just as difficult for a renter. Those are properties that we had tenants in place, and the owner wanted to capitalize on the gain, so they said, "Don't renew the lease, put it up for sale." Those Wall Street backed monies are going to, come in and turn the property around, put it back out for rent at probably a higher price. But a lot of the pushback we're getting from our tenants is that they have nowhere else to go. They're looking for stuff. We're giving them the notice that's required by their lease, depending on the lease, anywhere from 30 to 60 days, and they're coming back asking for more time because they just can't find anything. So it is a hot market, but it's also challenging depending on which side of the equation you're on.
That sounds it. I had a friend of mine was telling me about this Wall Street backed monies, and he said some group that he's a contractor, some group he would subcontract off of was able to buy 300 houses a month in the greater Jacksonville area. I mean, where the hell are you getting 300 houses from? And that's just one group, right? There's other groups that are out there.
Yeah, and so I don't know what they're buying. I mean, when they say houses, they could be buying units, or they could be teamed up with a home builder who, had a 150 unit community slated, and they then converted it from sales to a rental product. There's a property on the north side of town that I drove by the other day, and a few months ago when they were coming out of the ground, they had sales prices on it, from the high $200,000. And when I went by the other day, it had rental rates on it on the same sign. They just changed it from sale to rental, and now they're renting all those properties. So it's I heard it. I've got a friend that works in the city on Wall Street, and he put it to me this way: Wall Street and private equity has figured out how to make money on residential real estate. So residential real estate has become the new commercial real estate, essentially. So, and when you think about it, and you've heard it in the news, office product is in the air. We don't know if people are going back to work. We're seeing large companies who are cutting their office space because they have people who are either going to continue to work from home or do some type of a hybrid, so on and so forth. The small mom and pop retail and restaurants and things like that have also been hurt, and we've seen a number of them close down. So it's hard to get your footing on where office and retail property is going to be, but we know there's a shortage of inventory in residential real estate. We know how to monetize it, how to put it out there for rent. There's another statistic that's pretty interesting, and the housing affordability index for Northeast Florida has dropped almost 20% since last year. So that means there's going to be more renters, right? So it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy with these equity groups. They're driving the prices of real estate up by paying above asking prices because they don't need appraisals to justify their value, which means less people can afford to own a house. So more people have to rent so they can get higher prices.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting equation.
Yeah, I know down by me off of San Jose, almost to the Julington Creek Bridge, there's an apartment complex that's going up. They're going to start building. Actually, it's being built. I don't remember seeing how many units it is. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But I know I've seen a couple others like that around. I don't know if that's going to be enough to help. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, inventory's low. There's going to be a significant period of catch up. To bring it back from, again, a month and a half of inventory up to a balanced market of 6 months of inventory, especially with supply deficiencies and so on and so forth for builders, it's going to take a while. And coming into next year, we've heard talk about rates potentially increasing, but they are still incredibly low historically. I mean, but as again, that goes to it. As rates increase, you can afford less house based on your payment. And when you get into the lower tranches of pricing, and what I mean by that is the average home in Jacksonville, or the median sales price, has gone up from $256 to $307,000 since last year. And as you get into the lower inventory levels or pricing levels of, say, 100,000, 200,000, anything below that median price, the inventory levels get smaller and smaller. So it basically means that, first time home buyers, there's even fewer options out there for them. So it's going to be interesting over the next year to see how things play out.
I mean, that's your advice. We just see it's interesting. It's in some way, it seems it's a little sad because people are starting to discover, what we have here in Northeast Florida, and I like it too. It's good that our community is growing, but hard for the people of middle income or lower middle income to be able to make a living and pay for somewhere to live. Is there a trend at all to see more affordable housing being built? These rentals that are affordable housing, because the companies that you've talked about, we've seen them. I don't want to mention their names, but I mean, rent rolls in some of those neighborhoods used to go for like $1,000 or $1,100, and then they buy them. They put a few things in there, and they're charging $1,600 or $1,700 a month. And those same houses in same neighborhoods that the year before were significantly less.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not seeing a lot of people in the industry put affordable housing products out there. It's gotten to the price point. Income levels have not gone up, right? So as the price of the median house goes up, that just pushes them further and further away from being able to afford a house. And when you're looking at developing an apartment complex or something along those lines, the difference between finishes, so on and so forth, location, and all that kind of good stuff, the gap has changed on it. So why would I build an affordable housing complex when I can put something out there for retail, knowing I can get higher prices and more people need to rent? So the economics come into play there from the developer standpoint on as far as what they're putting out in the market.
I don't know. I mean, it seems to me at some point you can put out all of the high end residential properties you want, but if there are not enough people there to afford to pay it, what's going to happen?
Yeah, no, I look, I hear you, but it's when you're putting product out there that is built to rent, you're not worried about the people that can afford it, right? I mean, when you've changed your model, when you're a developer or a private equity group that's backing a developer, and you've shifted from a quick turn on your cash where you can build and sell something to let me build and get my returns over the next 10, 20, 30 years whenever my fund, sunsets. build it and rent it. You'll get the appreciation on values over the years. You'll get your current income. You can make your investors happy, providing them with the return. You can clip your management fees for running the fund and putting everything together for years to come. So I mean, it's difficult, guys. I mean, I'm all for putting I'm in real estate. I'm all for putting houses out there that people can afford to get into. And it does break my heart when I see these people who are writing letters saying, we've been looking for a house for 6 months, please take a look at our offer. But, it's hard to tell my seller to take an offer $10,000 lower than the equity guy who's willing to, waive all contingencies and close in 21 days. So I don't know what the solution is. I know it's a problem on a national level as far as affordable housing, but I really don't know I haven't seen a good initiative or solution for that problem.
How do you think Jacksonville compares to the nation as a whole?
We've fared pretty well from several standpoints. In our management portfolio, we didn't have any more evictions from March of 2020 when COVID first hit through this past month than we did in any other previous year. So people have still been able to, by whatever means, pay their rent for the most part. And we have rentals, anywhere from $600 a month on up. So we've been pretty good from that standpoint. As far as, we've had a 20% increase in values from a standpoint of residential homes. So from that standpoint, we've done great as well. Some of it is and this is anecdotal information, but I've talked to a few title companies and closing attorneys and things like that, and they said they have had more people from New York, New Jersey, the Northeast that have moved down here and closed on homes than they've ever seen before. Part of that was COVID because Florida and Jacksonville were wide open, and you can still go out to a restaurant, so on and so forth, and they were on lockdown up there. So and their cost of living is higher up there, so they were able to take the money from the homes they sold up there, come down here and buy a house that was 1,000 square foot more than what they were in before. So we've benefited from a few different aspects over the past year or so.
So good news for the investors, the property managers, the realtors. Not so good news for folks looking for a place to live.
That's absolutely correct.
So, Mark, with the turmoil in the market and stuff, are you guys doing anything to help the tenants that live in your places that wish to move on to become owners of homes? Do you have any things that you guys do at Spectrum?
Yeah, we do actually. We've actually just rolled out a resident benefits package for our tenants, and part of that package is there's a couple things. First of all, we actually report positive on-time rental payments to the credit agencies, and so that can actually help boost our tenants' credit scores. We'll also meet with them, and they can come and sit down with us at no cost, talk about what their goals are for purchasing properties, and we'll sit down and coach them through getting pre-approved, look at where they'd be in their price point, and kind of get them ready so they have, if they want, an entire year while they're renting the property to prep for the purchase of a property. The other thing we do, because we do care about our tenants as well as our owners, is when an owner wants to sell a property, the first thing we do, obviously, after discussing it with the owner, is we reach out to the tenant and we try and see if it's something that they think they can afford or would want to purchase on their own, and we'll walk them through that process. And we're typically pretty comfortable that our tenants will ultimately have the ability, because on the front end, we do a pretty thorough screening of our tenants before they get into a unit, which is one of the key aspects of any property management company. You kind of have your leasing life cycle where it's advertising the property, showing the property, taking applications, signing the lease, then you have a period where if everything is going great, you never hear from anyone. But we do handle all maintenance throughout the leasing process, and we do interim inspections. And then we look at the tenant, the property, comps, a good 90 to 100 days out prior to the expiration of the lease, to make sure things are going right, determine if this is someone we want to rent to again, or if it's, time to turn the property over to another tenant. So, throughout that entire cycle, we can be working with tenants and getting them ready for their own purchase. So we can help. I was painting a little bit of a dire picture earlier in the conversation about affordability and inventory and things like that, but we do help where we can, and there is some positive light that we try and shine on our tenants when they're looking to purchase a home.
Well, that's good. That's very nice to hear that there's some good news out there, even for the tenants, and it's great that you're able to go out and help them in that way. Mark, before we wrap up, is there ways to contact you? Any last words you'd like to tell the folks about Spectrum that you just like them to be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we do cover the full spectrum of property management, and we try to make things easy for owners, tenants, buyers, sellers, whatever we can do to help, we can. We've grown pretty aggressively over the past few years, so I'm actually in the process of hiring a business development manager to handle all the inquiries. But in the meantime, I'm available. They can reach me directly at the office at 904-389-7311, or they can shoot me an email. It's mhassan, so MHASSAN at spectrumrealtyco.com. I'm happy to talk to anybody, whether it's a tenant, an owner, buyer, seller, association, whatever the case may be. We'll get them to the right person on our team, walk them through whatever questions they have, and find the best path forward. That's great, Mark. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today. Appreciate all the great information and insights that you had for us, folks. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and share it. To find other episodes of Property Pros Podcast, you can find us on Facebook at Property Pros Podcast, or at our YouTube channel by the same name. Thanks. That's all for today. We'll see you soon.